we'll start out with Michelle. Michelle Belkot, your opening statements.
Hi, I'm Michelle Belkot. I'm running for County Councilor District 2. Some of you I might be a little familiar to you because I ran for Vancouver School District Seat 2, actually, during the primary and the generals last year because I was pretty concerned about what was happening in our schools, as a lot of our community members continue to today still. But there were a lot of issues that came to light. I say that COVID is a blessing and a curse at the same time because I started to see the issues that were related to the county council with the wrestling issues in the Department of Health and how they were shutting down particular sports and then leaving other sports the kids to play if they wanted to. So I started to look around and see, there's a lot of issues that the county council is involved in, and decided that I wasn't done yet, and I decided to throw my hat in the ring. I have 24 years in the military collectively, in the Navy and the Air Force. I'm getting ready to retire in a few months from the Navy Reserve. I've also been a civil servant and involved in multi-million-dollar construction and architecture and engineering contracts on major construction facilities for different agencies in the federal government. So I have a proven track record, proven leadership, and have what it takes to be in the county council in District 2.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And now, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Hamlik, and I am too running for District 2. And I was just telling Michelle we need a rose on this table because we feel like we're on a dinner date. So, just so you know, I have lived in this county for 40 years. I have decided to run because of many things, and some of them are our biggest issues that we have. When I was watching the council, I realized how they are failing us and having our voices be heard. It is really sad to see them fight with each other. No communication is happening, and we need to have communication to happen to have a resolution on any of our issues that we're going to be facing us, especially in the next 4 years. We have some big issues. We have issues now, of course. We all know of crime, homeless, but we also have the comp plan coming up and our development planning. We really need to take a really close look at that. And that's really what kind of touched me and started getting me into this whole politic kind of thing. Myself and a neighbor for about 1.5 years now have really delved deep into our development and where that plan is coming from. And it was a little alarming to me. So this is why I'm running, other than all the other issues we may have. So.
Very good. You can keep the mic, Kim, because you're going to get to go to first on this next question. And you kind of touched on it. Something that, in the last 3 years has been very disappointing to me, and I believe a lot of people, is the lack of civility. And, at Clark County today, we allow people to comment on our stories, and I do the best that I can to approve almost all comments. I don't like to censor people, but I just don't understand when people are not civil. And as Eileen Quiring O'Brien left the council this year, she made comments in a story that I printed on Clark County, or published on Clark County Today, about the lack of civility on the council. And even before that, years before that, there's been a lack of civility at times on the council, and that's so disappointing to me. I'll say that personally. How will you approach your role on the council and work with people that you disagree with on a particular issue, and how can you improve the level of civility on the Clark County Council?
That is a really good question, because when I sat there and watched, I saw 2 against 2, and that was a terrible thing to look. I mean, nothing got done during that time because they couldn't be civil and come up with a resolution for any of our issues we have. Then on top of that, we had someone else, added on to that with Mr. Rylander, and to listen to them talk to each other and not agree and try to make it better for all of us. That was so disappointing to me. So for myself, I know I like to bring people together. I've always worked really hard. and bringing people together and discussing. Now, we may not see eye to eye, and I totally agree with that. I may have a different point of view than you do, but if we do not work together and come up with a resolution for any of our issues, we will never have a solution for them. And this is a big deal for us because we have to come together. We have to have the compromises that we need to make. Like I said, there's a lot of people here that probably don't know me and probably don't agree with what I have to say, but there's a lot of people that do, and we need to find that middle ground where all of us can work together to make a difference for our community. We need to make a strong community and a viable community. So it's really important that we work together. That is more than anything else, that is something we need to obtain.
Thank you, Kim. Michelle?
Well, my master's and my undergrad is in management and organizational leadership, which involves a lot of communication. In the military, we come from all different walks of life, all diversities, all cultures. So you quickly learn to communicate with each other and work together. I too was disappointed, like I talked to Eileen about some of the communication issues. Try going to a school board meeting. You'll see it right there too. But you know, I've worked with foreign military on a lot of occasions as well, and I mean, talk about different opinions, but you learn how to respect one another and come to make decisions. I have watched some of the comments with Clark County today, and even the Columbian as well, and see people just being so completely disrespectful. I don't know when and exactly how that happened, because you can still have a difference of opinion and still communicate with each other without being divisive or calling someone a fascist. So I think I bring that, you know, level-headed, common sense experience with a very different military, federal headquarters, high-level experience, and I could definitely bring that type of common sense to the community as well for communication.
Thank you very much, Michelle. You can hang on to the mic because you'll go first on this next question. I believe in your opening comments you touched on the Board of Health. And so, you know, as you know, the Clark County councilors serve and make up the Board of Health. And so it's a dual role. And in discussing putting together a question on the Board of Health, I was talking with Rob about it. He told me, I have not read the RCW, so I'm going to put this on Rob. If he's wrong, it's his fault. But he said that technically the RCW reads that the Board of Health supervises the public health department and the public health director. But there's some disagreement or there's some discussion about that interpretation of the word supervises. So I want to ask you, both of you, what role do you think the Board of Health or the Clark County councilors should have in supervising the public health department and the public health director?
Well, Dr. Melnick, there's been a lot of issues with Dr. Melnick that I have personally disagreed with. And I think there's a lot of issues with who's who and who is his supervisor because of the charter amendment rules. So Kathleen Otto has a lot more power, it seems like, recently than well, more than just recently, than the county councilors. I have been vocal the last few weeks when I've interviewed that I do not support mask mandates and vaccinations. I believe that everyone should make the decision for their families. I talked a lot about that during my run for school board, and that I did not agree with and I'm not disagreeing. If you want to wear a mask, that's completely fine with me. If you don't, you don't. If you want to vaccinate yourself, feel free. If you don't, you don't. No one should be forced into doing something that they don't want to. I personally know that because I was forced into anthrax shots that were discontinued by the Department of Defense that I would pass out after. So I feel a completely different way maybe than some people do, and I'm curious and I'm questioning. So I wish that our role with the county, with Dr. Melnick, that the county councilors had a lot more say, because it doesn't seem like they do right now, and that's one of the things I would like to get to the bottom to. to the bottom of.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Kim, same question.
Great answer, another one. And Michelle did a really good job answering that. But I'm looking at the public health and how much more it has to do. Yes, it has to do with COVID, but there's a lot more that they do. And supervising and interpretation is one of the biggest problems that we have with the county right now. The council does interpretations, and it depends on who talks and what interpretation that you take from whatever that law or that ruling or whatever that may be. Melnick is an interesting gentleman, Dr. Melnick is. I've heard a lot of stories about him, and but I think as a counselor, you have to rely on who you have in charge. May it be wrong or right on the COVID situation. I can't tell you, I'm not a doctor. I would have to look at his information and rely on his information, and hopefully he directs me in the right spot. Now, I know that's not what you guys all want to hear, because like you, mandates are not fun, and I do think we should have choice. I think we should have choice on many things in our lives. So that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim. And keep the mic. The next question, I'm going to go back to a question I asked the District 1 candidates, and that's about citizens feeling safe. And we talked about the personal property crimes that are going on in our community. And so I want to ask you, as a county councilor, how could the council and the county support the Clark County Sheriff's Office in helping make us citizens feel safer?
A whole bunch better. Wow, I started getting into this crime thing and realized that there's more than just the sheriff's department. We have a jail that's broken, and we have a prosecuting attorney that's not giving us numbers and where he's at. So this is a three-phase kind of a problem, and we can't fix one without fixing the other two. This is a big issue, and as I have looked into it, done my jail tours, done my ride-along, and going on a court tour, I understand how broken we are, and that needs to be fixed as soon as possible. We need to fund our police. I'm not sure how we were going to do that, but we need to. If we don't, we're just going to continue down the spiral and end up with a lot more crime and a lot more problems. They haven't opened up the jail work center yet. I mean, I could just keep going on all our issues that I have seen. I mean, our sheriff's department, I'm surprised that as I'm writing with them, they're still typing. I mean, what happened to voice activation? Why don't we have our number one priority should be our police and the safety of our police. So why don't they have the best equipment? I mean, I'm trying to understand that, and I don't know why we don't. So my number one top priority is to make sure that they do. When I was talking to the officer, his taser, he's like, my battery works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. I'm like, what? I mean, should be our first line of defense. This should be working all the time. So these are things that we need to look at. Now, I also realize that there is some interesting things that the county does charge, and all of it needs to be looked at and revamped, and we need to do it now, because if we do not, we are going to be in big trouble.
Thank you very much. And Michelle.
Can you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. We were talking about the citizens and the public feeling safe, and I used examples of personal property crimes. My own example was in my neighborhood, mailboxes, community mailboxes continuing to get vandalized. And one of the candidates earlier talked about having this catalytic converter stolen. We know there's a lot of auto theft in our community. So I'm kind of focused on personal property crimes, but we all want to feel safe. And I don't think we feel as safe as we did a few years ago. How can the county council help the Clark County Sheriff's Office make us feel more safe?
Well, how about starting to pay the deputies a comparable salary? They should start with that, because it's a revolving door to Ridgefield or Vancouver City Police. Just in the month of May, we lost 5 deputies. Another candidate mentioned, I think it was Doug, that there's not even a full person equivalent to per citizen, and the Clark County Sheriff's Department services 237,000 something citizens. A couple of months ago, it was 0.56. It's now down to 0.35, which is not even half a person, half a deputy to even come to our rescue when we need it. So I'm not asking to raise people's taxes, but to pay a comparable salary. Else we're just gonna continue to lose everybody. And then just recently, they gave the Sheriff's Department some bonuses, but if you look at the details of what those bonuses were in their contracts, they have to be around for a very, very long time just to get the small portion of what's left over in their bonus after they're given the initial portion. It does not make sense, it's not comparable, and in the long term, how about citizens get involved in changing the laws in this state, which make law enforcement not want to stay in this state? We have initiatives back there that people can look at and sign and get involved. That's a big part of the problem. I have several very good family friends that are deputies, and they are considering moving because of that. And if they're not getting commensurate pay, then why do they want to stick around? When I talked about the month of May, one of the deputies went to the fire department, Fire District 6. One retired, and the rest either moved to another state or went to Vancouver City Police. So we need to remind them how important they are, because if we don't have them, I mean, you do see the crime. If you go to look at the Nextdoor app, I mean, you can see it left and right, the issues that people are dealing with, even in my district, which solely relies on the Clark County Sheriff's Department. We don't have City Vancouver.
Maybe this is naive on my part. Are you telling me that sheriff's deputy got an increase in pay by going to Clark County Fire District 6?
Yes,
Wow.
as a firefighter.
Wow.
As a firefighter.
Maybe I'm a little naive on that. That surprised me when you said that. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to the next question. I'm going to go back to the issue of homelessness. Obviously, we see it every day when we drive down the street, and I've been thankful that there has been stuff done in some areas, but it seems like it just moves the problem to another area. And I think it was Glen Young who was talking about, when a first responder or someone goes to someone on the street, they have to have a place to take them to do something. So I realize it's a complex issue. Personally, maybe this is an editorial comment, but I cringe to think about hazardous waste and biological waste. And I mean, we're here, this is a beautiful place in the country to live. And when I see it being soiled, it troubles me. Sorry for the editorial comment. But who are we starting with? Michelle. Michelle, homelessness. How do we make a dent in it?
Well, for starters, getting more community services involved. Recently, the County Council created the ECHO, Doug Coop mentioned that, the ECHO agreement 3 months ago. But curiously, Community Services Northwest was left out of that agreement. They're very involved with mental health services such as CMAR and some of the other services around. I know actually quite a bit about that. For 3 years, I worked for Clark County Public Health and was one of the primary contracting officers in putting together mental health contracts for Lifeline Connections, Share House, Department of Justice, the DARE program, methamphetamine recovery. So it seems like at this point, it seems like they just want to use the affordable housing model, which has helped no one at all in the majority of the United States. You can't just put homeless people who have mental health issues or drug issues into these little shacks around the community with no element of treatment. That's not helping them, that's just enabling them. I've told somebody recently, I said, that's like giving me an unlimited credit card to go shopping. Have fun. It's the same if you think about it. I mean, it just perpetuates them to live the way that they're living without becoming a member of our community, which requires them getting treatment of some type or the other. I just recently found out from one of the fire chiefs that in District 2, the Shiloh that's up off 134th Street is empty and is filled with homeless there that most people don't know about, that the sheriff's department and the fire district goes to on almost a daily basis because of either drug overdoses, they've started a fire, so on and so forth. So there needs to be an element of recovery, not just temporary housing, and having our community members and partners involved rather than just supplying a 1-800 number, hoping that a homeless person has a cell phone to get those services.
Thank you, Michelle. Kim, can you answer the question without forcing me to make another editorial comment?
Yeah, I can, because homeless is something I am really digging deep in and understanding it a little bit more. So I don't know if you all know that Washington State is number 5 in the United States in homeless. We have 23,000 people homeless in this state. So when I started looking at those numbers, it was like, wow, that's really scary. But then I realized a lot of those are probably, I'd say 90% are the ones that we do not see. Those are the ones that are receiving rent, assistance, and other things. They've just had a hard time, can't make it work on a minimum wage job, whatever that may be. So we do have situations like the HUD and the Homeless Council that will help with those things. We also have a lot of faith-based programs here that do work. The problem is that you cannot use one of those if you are using. Sounds kind of funny, doesn't it? So we do have that ugliness that we see on the side of the road, the tents and the garbage, and what you're worried about, Ken, is that environmental impact that they're having on our property and our waterways. It's very important. So what I am learning and what I'm trying to figure out, what is best for our community. Now, I know addiction, and I know you cannot go off or become off addiction unless you want to become off addiction. And I agree with Michelle, we just can't continue to put them in housing. But what do? We need to look at programs. I think the city is doing a really good job with some transitional housing to get them back into society and maybe get them into an apartment or a house. But we have to have these steps and we have to look for those solutions. And this is where the discussion has to happen. We have to sit down and we have to talk about it. It's really important. And then come up with the right plan that fits our community. I think the city's seeing it a lot more than we are, but it's coming our way. So we need to figure it out now, and should be a #1 issue also.
Thank you very much, Kim. And yes, keep the mic. And let's go to the rebuttal round now. If there was anything that you heard from your opponent or anything else you wanted to elaborate on with those topics, please feel free to do so. And remember, I am going to give you an opportunity to make a closing statement, so you don't have to get everything in this round. The floor is yours, Kim.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just think I want to state again how our sheriff's department is in dire straits. We need to truly fix that now. Now, I know that if we do not have a good plan and they do not get the money that they want, we have more than just 5 to leaving our deputies. We have more than that. And this is really scary to me because you are right. We only have half a person most of the time per 1,000 people, which is scary. Do you know North County, they're lucky if they have enough officers to have 1 up there, but if they don't have enough, they don't have any up there. And now imagine you have an emergency up there, and now it takes 25 minutes for someone to get there. So this is how important it is that we really support our sheriffs and we get behind them and give them the funding that they need. That's what we need to do. We need to have them have better equipment. I want our sheriffs to be #1. I don't want them to be number 79 in our state. It's really another extreme project that it needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much, Kim. Michelle, this is the rebuttal round. It's basically you can choose whatever you want, and you will have an opportunity to make a closing statement later.
Okay. Not necessarily rebuttal, but I'm going to steal from the other candidates from D1. When you talked about where would you get the money to come up with some of maybe the salary for the sheriffs, how about looking at your property taxes where 30% plus goes to the schools that are failing in our state? Just this week, the superintendent of our state, Chris Reichendahl, is trying to cancel out the standardized testing because 70% of our students are failing in math. That's just math. Pretty much failing across the board and everything. So how about let's look at the taxpayer money that goes that comes from our property taxes that goes to our failing schools, and maybe throwing the Sheriff's Department a bone with that.
Thank you, Michelle. And you brought up the superintendent's comments this week. I did run that column from the Washington Policy Center about Chris Reichdall's comments. And what I have not published, and I've kind of debated whether to publish it or not, but the Reichdall's office, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, fired off an angry email to the Washington Policy Center accusing them of defamation and everything else when they provided the video evidence of the superintendent's comments. And I mean, they didn't hide anything. They didn't take them out of context. They weren't selective in what they shared. They shared the superintendent's comments. So anyway, I don't know, maybe I'll publish that tomorrow. But yeah, I appreciated you mentioning that. Okay, closing comments, and I think Michelle gets to go first on closing comments. Thank you.
Again, Michelle Belkot, running for D2. I've been an officer for 24 years, proven track of leadership, also with multi-million-dollar construction contracts, architecture and engineering, which quite a bit, that's what the county council deals with. If you look at their agendas, they're looking at a lot of construction, public works projects, the budget. I have decades of experience in dealing with that. It won't take me long to come up to speed, if not even coming up to speed, whatever that means. I have a proven track record of that experience. If you want to find out more about me, my campaign, go to www.michellebelkot.com.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And Kim, your closing statements.
Newcomer to this whole arena. I've not ran before, like Michelle. So, but I do want you to know about me a little bit. So I'm a mother of 4, and why I'm talking about that is because the last probably 20 years I've been finished raising my children. And before that, I was a manager, and most of the time I managed many, many people, and it's really important that we do have communication in this position. We have to bring our team together, and this is really the #1 issue that needs to happen in our council. We need to communicate, we need teamwork, we need to make progress in the direction we want to go for our county, and that is what I'm offering. It's time we work together to get things done. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Belkot and Kim Hamlik, candidates for County Council District 2. Thank you very much for coming tonight.